Over the course of this day, you will have countless encounters, engaged conversations, perhaps a few moments of extreme boredom or frustration, but at the end of the day, a headline's going to be written about you. Being conscious of what you wish that headline to say matters. I will freely confess to all of you that while I'm in airports, I'm just a junkie for business-styled books. One I recently picked up, Everybody Matters. Now, it takes about 45 minutes to read while you're on a long plane ride, but the point of this particular book is looking at those people sitting next to you thinking, they've got headlines, I've got headlines, what our headlines read matter. Now, you could develop a headline through lots of missional objectives. You could think, what are my goals in life? And then create a mission statement and then live into that mission statement. If you choose to do that, my encouragement is make it about as short as you can get it so you can actually remember it. And then think, how do I live into that on a daily basis? What's the headline going to read? In the sacred text of the Holy Bible that I read in the book of Micah, there's an individual wondering about what the headline should read. And here's what it says from Micah chapter 6:8. God has shown you, O mortal, what is good. To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. It's brief, it's concise, it can fit in a headline. And I suspect the person who was tasked with this particular mission statement lived it well. Let me offer a word of prayer for our time together. Holy and gracious God, we give you thanks for this day, for these leaders in this room wondering about their futures, for the words of our speakers this day, for the staff that helps manage this particular program and all of the students involved, and for your gracious presence in our midst. We give you thanks this day and always. Amen. I'm going to turn it over to Vlad. And with that, you're supposed to applaud wildly.
I was actually expecting a standing ovation, but it's okay this time. No problem. This time it's okay. Well, I'm indeed Dr. Vlad Wyman, professor and associate dean with the School of Management here. I would like to welcome you all to this wonderful event that is called Paths to Professionalism. This is truly a must-attend event for all juniors and seniors, and a good opportunity for all students independently where they are in their program and their studies. And I'm happy that you do realize this, and therefore I'm happy that you're all here, and I'm happy to see so many of you paying attention to what's going to happen right now in front of our eyes. And today we're joining a distinguished panel of experts to learn about what defines you as a professional, challenges of the business environment, and the importance of first impressions. What is specifically interesting about today's event is that this will be an all-female panel of experts, which we don't see too often, unfortunately. I'm talking about all-female panels, not female experts. Don't get me wrong. So panel of experts who will share perspectives they bring from two different industries, high technology and biotech. I'm sure this would be both exciting and educational for all of us. I would like to also acknowledge specifically one of the panelists, Susan London Smuck, who is also chair of the Lutheran's Board of Regents. Welcome to you, Susan, and also welcome to both Sabina and Sue. So ladies and gentlemen, please listen, learn, get involved, collaborate, and find your path to career success. Enjoy. And now, I would like to introduce today's panel's moderator, Dr. Veronica Guerrero, who is an associate professor with the School of Management, who will introduce the panelists in some more detail, and we'll carry forward the conversation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I know it's hard enough to get to class at 7:30, but then to have to dress up and come here, we definitely appreciate your presence. I have the pleasure of calling these women on the panel, not only my colleagues, but some good friends of mine, and I think one of the things I would definitely want you all to get from this is the opportunity to network. So Sabina and Sue and I all graduated and were in your seats 25 years ago at Cal Poly, and we're business majors and have kept in touch, remained very, very close friends, and networked with each other. In fact, I've worked with each of them throughout my career, and we continue to help and support each other to this day. So you should be looking at the people around you on your table, the people in the other tables, because these are the individuals that you're going to be looking towards and working with in your own career paths. And that's definitely been the case for myself and these women. Susie Smuck is a good friend of mine who I also have met through my children. Our kids went to the same school, so we had the opportunity to meet, and you get to network and learn about individuals, and then found our commonality here at Cal Lutheran, which has been fantastic. And I want to acknowledge that she also was part of the drive yesterday with the $10,000 matching gift donation. So we can all please give her a round of applause. So I didn't want to repeat, you all have their bios on the back of the agenda, but what I've asked each of the panelists to do in kind of kicking off this introduction this morning is to share their story, answer two questions. One is, what was their career highlight? And two is, what was their most interesting or difficult interview situation? So they're going to spend just a couple minutes each talking about that, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So Sue, if you'd like to start.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for having us. We're happy to be here. So it's a little bit scary to think that it's been like 25 years, but we were definitely in your shoes, and I can tell you it doesn't feel like 25 years. But I'm actually going to flip the order of the questions, and you'll understand after I kind of get through both. But from an interview experience, right, there's a lot of challenging interview experiences, right? And you learn from them all, which is the key thing. And understand that they're each building blocks that you can then take, whether the experience is you come out feeling great or you come out feeling like I could have done that better, that outcome wasn't what I thought it would be. And the interview experience I'm going to talk about is when I went in to talk with a person about a position, and first off, got off to a bad start. The list that they had provided me of those that I would be meeting with, right, it didn't have the hiring manager's name on there. It was someone else's name. So first off, when she walked into the room, I didn't realize who it was, and she didn't have a LinkedIn profile, so I wasn't able to actually recognize her right off. So that created a bit of a awkward need to, backtrack. Oh, you are Barbara. Okay, fantastic. So then you find out they're the hiring manager, right? And so you're like, okay, now I want to make sure that I make a good impression. And then also, challenging interview experience can be, sometimes you're asked, to do things right on the spot that you may not be prepared to do. So in this case, she had me reviewing real time and providing feedback on some different designs, which wasn't something, you couldn't prepare for that, right? So, but in that sort of case, it's really just understanding, okay, it's, being true to what you know and your knowledge and sharing that, recognizing that there's no right or wrong answer. So I mention that as a challenging experience just because you can't always prepare for everything. You just got to know that and have confidence in yourself. In that particular case, I did not get that job. I ended up receiving an email from her saying, we've decided to move forward with someone else. We don't think you're exactly the right fit for this role, but, thank you for your time. So I took that opportunity. You never want to close a door. You never know when it's going to open up, down the road. So I took that opportunity, and in that email, she had provided some feedback on here's a couple of data points on why I don't think you're right for that role. So I took that as an opportunity. This takes time, but I think it's very much worth it to, again, you want to keep that door open for future. So I responded to her email and, kind of point by point, thank you very much, appreciate your time. Here's some things I would like you just to consider for the future. Got an email back from her, okay, thanks. I didn't get that job, but you know what happened? Like 6 months down the road, I got a call from her, Barbara O'Connor at Yahoo, and she said, do you remember talking to me? She said, that particular role I don't think was necessarily the best role for you, but I have a role open on my team, and it's yours if you want it. So just an example of how you, in an interview situation, you never know down the road what will come of that, right? So again, keep those doors open, make sure you're building those connections, and recognize that that person that's telling you no, it might just be not now. There might very much be a connection down the road, which then goes into my, I guess what I would consider one of my career highlights was that particular job. So again, very, you never know where things might lead in life, right? So I really like the whole notion of living each day with intention and really being thoughtful about kind of what your mission is and that how you're building that brand in each interaction. So she called me, asked me to join Yahoo, lead up creation of a customer contact strategy team. It was a global role. It allowed me to build my team, which was fantastic. So, had the opportunity to come in. This was, I guess, 10 years ago now. So 10 years ago, I joined Yahoo. Got to determine the kind of mission for the team. Here's how we're going to measure ourselves. Here's what our strategy is going to be. Here's the key roles I am going to need, and was able to build that team, hire in my key folks that I then worked with for several years, and really just created a function within the company that was perceived of being of great value. So that's how I would put those two together. So again, and then whenever those times in life sometimes might seem down, you never know when they're going to end up, resulting in something great. So just think about that.
Go ahead, Sabina.
Hello, everyone. This is quite exciting for us. I would have been in back-to-back meetings in conference rooms all day, and this is really fantastic to be here in front of all of you. So thank you for having us. This is you all look very enthusiastic. So thank you for having us. So I'm going to start with my proudest experience in business. So I've been in tech for over 20 years. I started in tech before .com. So these were very early days. I worked at Oracle Corporation, which back in the day was the hardest place to get in. It was really get in there, pay your dues, entry-level position, kind of grind it out, but really, work your way up in your career. So the most sort of challenging and exciting moment in my career was I was a sales rep, and I got through that period, and then I worked hard, made my numbers, but I always knew business development was my real passion. So I was able to move into a team within development at the company, which is a big transition from sales to development. But they had a business team that was incubating and launching emerging technologies. So back then, this was the 90s, let's say, emerging technologies were mobile, wireless, voice. I mean, these were insane concepts back then. Everyone had flip phones if they were really on the high end, right, and pretty bricky type phones on the lower end. So this was very early days, but what we realized was there was a business opportunity, that the market was really taking off in Europe and Japan specifically. So we knew that this trend was coming to the US. And so our team, essentially focusing on, again, emerging technologies, we took this concept of driving a consumer wireless portal. So these were the early days when there was no such thing as cloud computing, there was no such thing as subscription models. We were really doing cutting edge business development, working, and we were able to work across the company with the lawyers because we were driving a new business model. We were reaching out to companies at the time. This was, .com days. So companies which were big at the time, like Evite, CNN. I remember sitting in a meeting with an executive at CBS Sportsline, and I remember him, verbatim saying, "Who's ever going to check sports scores on a phone?" Very skeptical. So, I wish I could see him again. But we essentially, got out into meet all of these people. We had to essentially convince them that there was they needed to invest. We built out a consumer wireless portal, and we drove it in the market. So really from soup to nuts, we had to build an ecosystem. We had to build new business models. We had to go find clients that had really never done this before. And then we also had to build a development team to take it to market. And then the most exciting part of the whole experience was we also had a voice portal. So at the time we were competing, it was a Ford Qualcomm company called Wingcast. And they were competing with OnStar at the time. So they were trying to launch a competing solution. So we essentially, within 6 months, we just acquired a voice technology at Oracle, and we integrated that into our technology stack, and we're able to turn around a $30 million deal to sell this voice portal to Wingcast, and I drove the deal. And I was fairly young at the time. I was, let's see, because I'm still young, right? Let me think here. I was probably in my late 20s, and the account team was based in Detroit. So I really drove that deal, which was very exciting for me at that age to really structure that kind of a deal. And the best part of the whole experience was back in the day, if you didn't close a deal, it was the last day of our fiscal year, and to recognize the revenue, you need to have those funds, at least the part of the financing of the funds, by midnight. And back then, if you didn't wire the money before the end of the business day, you were in trouble. So I was down south negotiating the deal, and we finished negotiating. It was probably about 10 p.m., and they wrote a $7 million check, which was the down payment on the financing. So the company hired a private jet for me and flew me back to Oracle so we could recognize the revenue by midnight. So that's just, that's never happened again. I've never been on a private jet again. But I will say, I was so nervous. I didn't even order a Diet Coke, and I was the only person on the plane. I just sat there with the check. But, so anyway, that was a great learning experience for me, because I continued in my career to do business development and sales. And you have to really foster these experiences in order to continue your career. So that's that. And then I'm going to flip the question a little bit. I'm going to tell you about the worst interview I've given someone, or someone interviewee giving me an answer. So I'm at a company now called Salesforce, and we're the pioneers of cloud computing, which is the future of essentially technology. And I had a candidate come in, and he went on and on about how excited he was about working for this company, and really enthusiastic. And then at one point I said something about cloud computing, and he kind of leans in and he said, "Oh yeah, so tell me about what that cloud computing thing is." And I thought, wow, okay. So lesson learned is always prepare in interviews. You need to be authentic. You need to look at annual reports. You need to read the latest press releases. You need to really have an understanding of the company you're interviewing with, because at that point, I don't really care how enthusiastic you are. This is a major trend in technology. So if you didn't have the baseline, it was an interesting experience. But we can elaborate on preparation and that kind of thing soon. But yeah, so thank you very much, and pass it on.
And thanks for having us here today. I'll launch into career highlights. I do have to call out a couple. One would be when I was selected in a pretty competitive process at Amgen to be the first human resources expatriate for the company. That was a highlight, not that one day being selected, but that whole opportunity of 2.5 years in the Benelux region, and then supporting the company kind of throughout their European operations at a fairly young age. I didn't really realize how huge that would be personally and professionally. Not always easy, but just a really awesome set of experiences that I call on even today. And the second one would be more recent, and that was going to NASDAQ and ringing the bell with the executive leadership team of the company that I just left, that was purchased by Allergan a few months ago. But the reason that was a highlight, and you don't even ring the bell, it's all digital, and you stand there and you watch ticker tapes and they're filming you, so you're not the one up there. That's the New York Stock Exchange. So I had something different in my head, but anyway, it was still really cool. The thing why that was a highlight is I joined this company after Amgen and a stint in between. And I started as a consultant to the CEO, just working for equity. They did not have cash. It was a startup company. And I had known the CEO at my days at Amgen. So that turned into then part-time employment. They had some financing and said, we have some cash now, we can pay you. I went in a day a week, then I went into 2 and 3, and so got to build that company, essentially. I did not build it. I got to support the build and creating that from the beginning. But then to be ringing the bell, going, through an IPO process, and again, remember, I'm an HR professional. I'm not the medical director really developing the drug. I'm not the CFO. And I thought, hey, I'm really a true business partner here. So that wasn't that long ago. So those were highlights, at least in my career journey. Challenging, and it wasn't even challenging. I just look back and go, oh, what a bad interview. After 13 years at Amgen, I kind of had it in my head that company was getting quite large. I was ready for something small, really transparent. Again, still an awesome employer. And so I had started entertaining different opportunities, and I went on this interview to a cool startup, biotech. I won't say the name because it really worked out. God works in mysterious ways that I didn't get that job because it's being pummeled in the marketplace and the drug's not getting approved. But I went into that, and I don't think I really wanted it, but my interview completely showed it, which was, I think, disrespectful. I wasn't disrespectful in it, but it was clear I hadn't done my homework. It was clear I didn't have my personal story ready to be able to share, to say this is how I can impact this company. I really thought I was going in and I'll have a conversation and they're going to see that I'm got some great experience. And I drove away going, I did not do that whole process, do service. I didn't do that CEO. And so just a learning, again, if we're going to take the time to go do that we put in our best energy. I could have turned down the job if I got it, but they didn't give it to me. But so anytime you go into that, go lean in, or, I don't want to overplay that term, but, lean in and really be engaged. And I wasn't proud of myself at that moment.
Thank you. We're going to start with the open questions from the floor. So if you have a question, if you could raise your hand and we will bring a microphone over for you. Do we have any brave souls that want to start the Q&A this morning? I will start with the question. Oh, there we go. Patty. The what? Oh, hello.
We kept it a little bit light here, so yeah, you can't change your, maybe you should. We've known each other a very long time. Yeah, so my headline, I kept it fun. We're heading to Hawaii on Saturday. So the headline for tomorrow is Sue is going to Hawaii tomorrow. That's right. Very excited.
Do I have to be honest? Okay, I'm going to be honest. My headline was, I'm just going to get a lot of sleep this weekend because I'm exhausted. So but that I would change it after, hearing the intent behind it.
My headline had to do with another the most important role in my life, and that's being a mom. And so I really flipped it and said, this weekend, I'm going to be all about my kids. I have 3 kids, 2 into volleyball, 1 into soccer, and the weekend's going to be all about that. But I do want to just say, I'm glad you brought that up, because our headline is not our profession. It's not, what am I, doing tomorrow? We're whole human beings, and I don't know if anyone in school anymore, this is going to really date me, does anything with Stephen Covey, but the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But one of those exercises, and we used to use the tool at Amgen, really caused you to look at the roles in your life, where you're a professional, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a Christian, whatever those things are, and really build out your day. It's a time management tool, but around those roles. So that's a long way of saying my headline was about being a mom.
I would like to kind of add on to that. So, you're out in the world, there's corporations, but corporations have cultures, they have values, and it's really important to, find that culture and value. So I am so proud to work for a company that it has what's called a 1-1-1 model. So they donate 1% of revenues to charities. They donate 1% of employees' time to charities, meaning I can take a week off a year and go, it could be as simple as a week off doing my children's sports coaching, or I could go to Africa and volunteer somewhere. It's whatever you want. And they also give away 1% of our technology. And it's such an innate part of our culture to give back to the community. So I really have learned. I worked at Oracle, which had a certain culture. I went to SAP, which was a European company, had a completely different culture. It just wasn't a fit for me. It was a great place. And now I'm here at Salesforce, but my identity isn't being a corporate executive. My identity is, I love being able to give back to the community. I love being able to get matching donations. I sit on a board of a charity, but my company really supports me in that process. So that's another thing to think through is, people need you. It's not just, when I need to fill a spot, right? I want to hire the right person. So as you get out in the world, really research these companies, get a feel, you essentially can do informational interviews. Get on LinkedIn. If one of you reached out to me to say, I'd like to learn about Salesforce, I would be happy to talk to you for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But you really can find the right fit. So I guess we were light, but there is some. Yeah, I really liked what you said about that. So.
Okay, I'm going to start off with the question while you're all thinking of a question. Sue, if you could start us off here, how can a new employee stand out in the workplace?
How can a new employee stand out? I think it really is thinking about what we've been talking about in terms of kind of that intention and really bringing, your full self to the workplace, meaning that to stand out this day, it's much more than coming in and kind of, you obviously don't hit a clock, but there, the virtual clock of clocking in and out. It's really important to understand ultimately how is what you're doing. It doesn't matter at what level you are. There's an opportunity for everyone to operate like a leader on a team, right? So I look for new employees that can come in and really are thirsty for knowledge, right? You want to come in and you want to start learning, okay, what is it that the business is trying to solve for? How does our team fit into that? How does my role fit into that? What can I do to help you? So people that are really wanting to just come in and learn and roll up their sleeves and really do whatever it is that they can to help make that larger team successful. And that sounds really simple, but it's really about mindset. I think in how people approach their role, mindset is what sets people that are great and awesome at what they do from those that just get by. We talk a lot, for example, when we do employee reviews, and this came from, back, at Intuit, and it's just, gone through at each company that I've been at. There's the what's and the how's. The what's meaning, if you were, supposed to execute on X, Y, and Z, did you do that? That will only get you to maybe you've met the requirements of your job. What will get you to outstanding, and as a new person coming on, gets you on the path to that outstanding, is really understanding the value, what that company values, and being that leader in terms of how you approach that role. So not only did I get the project done, but you know what? I collaborated well with everyone that I worked with. I treated people with respect. I communicated clearly. I built strong teams in doing that. I understood how what I did contributed to the bigger picture. I took what I was given and I didn't just deliver. If I was asked to deliver A, I looked at, not a recommendation on only to get to A, but I can take it further by doing B, C, and D. So it really is about the combination of those what's and the how's, and that's where I think if you really think about what can I bring to this role through an interview process or a new hire, that's what's going to set someone apart.
I'll keep mine fairly short, but I think we've all had big teams. I've many direct reports, And so at some point, you know, you're managing maybe, I don't know, directly 10 people, which is a lot. I mean, that's probably the max I've had. I know Sue's got a lot of directs right now. But the point is that you have sort of a scale, right? You've got your top performers, your you know, average, and then there's always someone right at the bottom. It's just natural course of life. As they grade your papers, I'm sure you guys are familiar with that concept. But you only have so much bandwidth, right, to give to a team. And so I think it's very important to sit down and understand with your boss what are their priorities, understand what success means. I mean, have the conversation, because you know, at some point you can be an average performer and you will get by and you'll continue, you know, you'll continue in the role. The people that really shine for me are the ones that sit down with me ahead of time. You know, what does success mean this year for you, for me to drive? What are the milestones that I need to get to have the success? And by the way, you know, what would be a home run for you this year? And then I try, and I've done this throughout my career, at least quarterly, you meet with your boss, because I think this gets shuffled under the table, people get busy. Have the one-on-one, have that conversation. What am I doing well? What am I not doing well? Have the conversation about, you know, I want the next promotion. What do I need to do to get there? Be proactive. And then I would also do the same with my boss's boss, getting their permission. But it's always good to sort of get feedback. So I think for me, the people that shine are the ones that, you know, I'm busy, I need you to make me look good. So A, you're making me look good. You're not super high maintenance, but that is because we set our objectives together, you know, really early in the fiscal year, and we're really like checkpointing it as we go. Those are my easy people, right? And those are the ones that shine to me.
A little bit of repeat, but I think of two things, especially for a majority of you at this particular stage that don't have tons of work experience to call on, or embarking on kind of the first, you know, job in your professional aspirations. Sense of curiosity. So, and again, you see that from the interview stage on, and it's, you know, you obviously don't want to be asking questions at inappropriate times, so you marry that with the other thing that's really important is self-awareness. I hope you go out of this university or your time here and you've used what I think the gift is of really figuring out who you are. And I know the mission is discovering your purpose. I'm still discovering it. It's like ongoing, so it's not, but this begins the shaping of that. And so I hope you go out of here knowing your story, knowing who you are, where you're not. You know, I love, back to interviews, when I have someone that says, I'm completely gifted here, this is where I need, you know, to be shored up. This is where I need, you know, partners to kind of help complement the gifts that I've been given. And so I think sense of curiosity and self-awareness are key.
Thank you. Any questions yet from the floor? I know it's early, but we have those coffee. Come on, there's no bad questions. Don't be shy. Perfect.
Want to know what Veronica's favorite food was back in college?
Looking back on,
Okay, can you say your name too when you?
my name is Wesley Thompson. Looking back, are there any skills you wish you developed or worked on in college to better prepare yourself for the workforce?
So I'm one of those that believes you have been blessed with certain gifts, right? Those are innate gifts. But the one I got to tell you, this is going to be embarrassing, is I wish I would know Excel. I wish I just would have. That tool is so flippin' powerful. And I sit there today and still learn stuff, and my CEO and he jokes with me, and he ends up, you know, running my spreadsheets for me. But Excel is super powerful in any role, so it probably would have been something very technical like that.
Absolutely, that's a great question. I think we all tend to, you know, in college I did at least, you know, the things I was good at were the classes I liked taking, right? Because I was good at it and it was easy. Looking back, so, you know, I was really I liked marketing and the classes on sales, and those are sort of what I was drawn to. Looking back, what a great opportunity for me to dig into finance, some of the areas that, being able to read a financial report, that's a huge asset, or accounting principles, so looking back, I wish, I was already good at marketing. I wish I had, hyper-focused. We would have our major, and then we'd have an area that we would sort of, what's it called again? Our minor, I guess it was our minor. So I minored in marketing, concentration, that's it. So I really look back and wish, wow, I really needed to learn finance and accounting. I should have picked one of those two. So I would just say if something's a little daunting, that means you probably need to learn more about it, and that's probably what I would have done.
Yes, I mean, it's a great question. I think for me, thinking back, it's kind of along the lines of like the Excel train of thought, which I love Excel, by the way. Everyone should know Excel, PowerPoint. I mean, please make sure that those are very important. And it's not just how to operate PowerPoint, but what makes a good presentation. But the piece that I would have probably liked to have learned more is some of the ability to do some creative design myself, right? So clearly things have evolved, over the last 24 years, but for example, being able to know like the basics of, coding HTML, or to create a very basic marketing campaign. And these are things that you can do, kind of teach yourself if you probably have classes on that, but if not, it's the sort of thing, there's so much information available, the more you can learn, and I'm not saying you're gonna be asked to do that every day in your job, but I love those people that say, you know what, I can go ahead and crank something, there's always those projects that you just need, they come up late and you just need to, crank something out, and if there's someone that has the skill to do that, that makes you extremely valuable. So yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Great question. Where's our next question coming from? Alexis, I see you back there. You always have good questions. I'm going to come back for you to think of one. What will you say? I'm going to do the next one, and then it's your turn. Go ahead.
Can I follow up on that? Talk about the importance of making presentations. Can you give the students a couple of examples of what presentations are in the real world business context, and what makes them good?
Yeah, so, in real world business context, I mean, I would just say that I am probably, PowerPoint is the program I use most often. It's the fundamental tool for communicating one's ideas, right? And if you think about kind of what the most important skill is for anyone in business, it's being able to communicate your ideas to others and get them sold through, right? So PowerPoint is a great tool to enable that. So we use PowerPoint. I am currently in the process, we're going through our fiscal planning right now. Our fiscal year started this week, so you would think we'd be done with planning, but most corporations usually aren't when you kick off the fiscal year, right? You have your foundation and then you finalize it, budgets get set and all of that. So tomorrow when I go back, I'm going to be working on a presentation summarizing our fiscal year objectives for our team and putting that in the context. Again, you want to have everything that you do, how can you communicate it in that larger context, how that rolls up to ultimately our GM and our company. So that's a big part for the planning process. We also use PowerPoint quite a bit to, make recommendations, right, and share results, right? So we just, for example, we ran a brand advertising pilot for our company, September through December timeframe. We reported out on results. And so we needed to use PowerPoint to communicate the plan up front, again, and get that buy-in, but then also come back and communicate results. So we're in it quite a bit, and again, it's not only creating the presentation, but it's then being able to practice delivering that presentation and really thinking through, like, what am I looking for somebody to get out of this? What is the outcome I'm trying to get, and crafting it all around that.
I was just gonna say, from a PowerPoint, a good tip I got was what's the one key takeaway? What is the tombstone box that says, okay, if you look at all of this data or verbiage or whatever, what is that? And then back to the full presentation. Presentation skills are always key.
Yeah. Working in technology, right now the paradigm is PowerPoint, a very important skill in today's world. I think 5 years from now there'll be a new paradigm, and it probably won't, hopefully won't be as prevalent in the business world, but we all do. So I do my business plan on PowerPoint. I just finished my fiscal year, my FY17 plan, but I also present, I have an external facing job. I manage the relationship with Deloitte Consulting, and to talk about PowerPoints, consulting people, you know, will have 100, 1,000 words on a PowerPoint, and you just like, it throws you back. But I think one of the greatest experiences I went through was a very senior partner at Deloitte presented in front of the entire management team of SAP. At the time, SAP was the third largest software company in the world. Very senior audience. And he was brilliant. Instead of doing the death by PowerPoint, we literally have that term, death by PowerPoint. I was in a 2 days of meetings, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 9 hours a day, and every single presenter had a PowerPoint. Oh my God. So with that being said, this senior partner at Deloitte started his presentation. The first PowerPoint was a picture of an animal. And every single message he was sending within that presentation was a different animal on every page. It was brilliant. I had more executives from SAP remember him, come up to me over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, asking me about him. He made such an impression because instead of relying on these words, he relied on a message, right, and it was authentic. So unfortunately, it is sort of the tool of the day. It's painful, it can be, so differentiating there is important. I do believe as we look at the evolution of technology, it's important to keep your pulse on it because there's gonna be another tool. It always evolves. I mean, when we started our career, it was Excel, now it's PowerPoint. There's an evolution, but I would just say, just always I try not to even look at my slides when I'm presenting in front of an audience because you should know the content and understand what it is you're trying to articulate because nobody really wants you to read, bullet by bullet, and believe me, most people do that. I can vouch for that. So, just know your message, be authentic. Anyway, yeah, good question though.
Do we have a question out there yet? Your name?
Hi, my name's Andrea Titorescu. I just wanted to know for each of you, what was the most rewarding part about your career?
I can speak to that. So it's actually within the last 2 years. So I'm on a board of a charity in San Francisco, and I am, I mentioned earlier my company's very much into philanthropy. So I've really been able to bridge the gap. It serves underprivileged youth in San Francisco, and these are kids, a lot of them who've never been, no one in their family has ever been to college, so they're first generation college students. So I've created some mentoring programs for these kids with corporate executives. So for instance, just yesterday, we had 18 juniors in high school come into Salesforce, into our executive briefing center, and we did mock interviews for them. So they were with Deloitte or Salesforce executive, had their resume, came in, and then were given feedback and then moved on to improve with the second person. But, being able to take a passion, which, for me, philanthropy is important, and apply that within my corporate, job is amazing. It makes it a lot easier to work when, you have an outlet of creativity or whatever it is you're passionate about. So when I say research corporate cultures, I really mean that. I mean, there's just, right now, there's a hot market out there. People are hungry for smart, young talent. You have options, and so, keep that in mind as you get out into the interview process. Think about what you want, and the other piece of advice is just, I know we were trying to skew this a little to interviewing. I've had candidates who want to get into a company and will interview for maybe 4 jobs, and each time they'll tell the person they're interviewing with, like, this is my dream job. Well, the recruiter talks to all of us, so at some point that's not authentic, right? So when I think you should think about, A, what culture do you want? B, do informational interviews. You don't have to make every interview the job interview. Figure out what you want, and then authentically go to that interview, because it does come through when it's not authentic, as you were saying earlier. And that's a very common mistake with students right out of college. We're all sort of one organization. The recruiter's keeping tabs on everyone you're talking to. So then we know you're not authentic when you're telling all of us that I want to be an accountant. No, I want to be a sales rep. No, so just think that through, ahead of time.
I thought of something related. I've been able to, at the startup company, be a part of designing and working with all the employees the culture we wanted the company to really have, and to put words behind values, and then reinforce that through different systems, whether it's performance management systems or really the social outlets of it, or the charity kind of arm. I shuddered a little bit at the question, because I hope there's more. Not that kind of looking at the career, kind of in retrospect. I hope there's more. There's more. Yeah.
So for me, I would say it goes back to the most rewarding part being about building the opportunity to work with individuals to grow them and grow the collective team. So, I mean, for me, that's my, thinking about kind of living again intentionally. It's all about the relationships that we make in life, right? Work is, it's interesting. It allows you to, apply, your thinking and your skill set to interesting problems. But what really make it, kind of exciting thing to go and do each day are those people that you're working with and how you're moving things ahead and doing that together. So for me, it's really about those individuals I've had the opportunity to work with in the process, and I've grown in my career as I've had the opportunity to build teams and help lead those teams to new heights.
Good morning. My name is Jessica, and it's my understanding that you can only learn so much in the classroom, and the rest comes with experience. So I'm wondering what is a piece of practical knowledge you learned from experience that you wish you would have gained prior to entering the workforce?
I might reframe that to make a point that, agreed, you don't learn everything in the classroom. And you, throughout your life, you won't learn everything through books, online training, certification programs, whatever. I think that leads you to things I think we're touching on, intentionality, being authentic, and that is really thinking of your network broader than I thought of what networking meant when I was a student here. Oh, I've got a Rolodex, and if I have that number and ask for an introduction, maybe I'll get an interview. I hope you think of your network as just, again, kind of this life-shaping thing throughout, and that means being able to ask questions. It means having a mentor. It means having someone that's safe to say, oh, at my workplace they asked me about this. I have no idea what they're talking about. Or brainstorming with, this is how I think I want to approach it. What do you think? And so those take, it causes you to pause and look at your network, because you're going to use it in different ways. And so I wish I would have had more understanding before I got out in the workplace of the bigger, fuller power of a network. And power, I don't mean by getting the best paying job, but just how it makes me a better person in whatever I'm approaching.
Yeah. Great question. I remember my first corporate job, and I was interviewing. My worst fear, this is going to age me, I didn't know how to send a fax. I was panicked. What if they asked me to fax something? And I nearly had a 4.0 in college. I mean, I did okay, but I did not know how to send a fax. So, we all have, fears.